Hi my friend, in this video we're going to be making throwback tech house synths and vocals inspired by Mr. Belt and Wezol's song, It's Not Right, But It's Okay. We're going to find out if we can do this in under 2 hours by using the 80-20 rule of tech house synth and vocal production. What you're listening to right now is the song that we'll be working on, and what you're looking at right now is the Ableton project file that we'll be working on. In particular, we're going to focus on this melodic group right here, going in order that I actually created each one of these tracks so that you can follow along when you're building out your own synths and vocals in this style. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video where we'll be doing a nice recap of the 80-20 rule, because that is how I was able to finish all of these synths and vocals in under, it was about maybe about an hour and a half that it took me. And this whole song mixed, mastered, arranged, completely ready to go, as you can see here, only took about 6 hours for me to complete. So if finishing songs fast just like this is something that you'd like help with, I've also made you a free bundle of templates, samples, and special bonuses that I use to completely finish one song like this every single week. Visit the link that's on screen now or in the description to grab the Ultimate Song Finishing Toolkit for free. And if you want to take things to the next level, you can also find a link to this video's project files in the description as well. But with that said, let's jump into this. Alright. So first things first, just like with every other portion of building up this track, first thing is to remember to have a reference track brought into your project file. So I have the Mr. Belt Wezol song, It's Not Right, But It's Okay. And turn it off, and then set it up so when I press the S key on my keyboard, I can jump back and forth so we can pick the right notes, select the right sounds, and set the right volumes. That's really going to get you a lot of the way there. But in terms of the melodic stuff, let's work through this group. One of the first things I added was this kind of just ambiance. We have a listen to it soloed. There's some drums in there, but it kind of felt more like a melodic thing to me, so I kept it in this section. It's not really in like the, if you listen, I can't really hear too much of that. I just thought it sounded cool, so this was a little bit of like my own decision. This found something cool on Splice. Didn't make too many changes in terms of the clip, and just standard channel strip stuff, so removing some of the low to make room for the bass and the kick. A little bit of one knob sidechain so that it's kind of pumping a little bit and grooving and making room for the kick as well. And then a little bit of Ableton saturation to bring it out a bit, fill out the sound, and a little bit of this one knob width plug-in to make things a bit more stereo, push to the left and right, and keep the center free for like the vocals and stuff that we're going to add in a moment. I'll go over this channel strip stuff a bit more in detail in a moment, but since this layer is not super important, let's just move on from it, I would say. Now let's get into some important stuff. So let's turn on this next one and take a look and a listen to it. So basically what this is like the kind of main synth. We listen. That kind of thing. And so when getting this pattern right, definitely there's a couple of different things that I tried, and I almost got so frustrated that I kind of gave up on this completely. But the first thing that I did was I tried to just drag, I grabbed some of the MIDI and just dropped it into the MIDI track and used like the convert to MIDI function to get the melody, and then try to play around with that. That didn't work. Then what I did is I tried to like build out the chords and use like the new arpeggiation transform feature here. That sounded too generic and boring. I tried chucking like the arpeggiator on the track, and everything was really sucking. I got to the point where I went in Splice and just looked for like a similar arp kind of sound and wasn't able to nail it. Literally almost gave up on the track. And then what I ended up doing to get this pattern is I did do the drag function. So I dragged this over onto the MIDI clip, and it gave me some notes that were correct. And then basically I did like, I just flipped back and forth to a part like, let me go to like maybe here. So I looped this part over and just kind of use the convert to MIDI as a jumping off point. And then just use my ear flicking back and forth to try to get like the notes in the correct positions. That's the main way I can kind of show you how to do it, but this is the MIDI right here, and of course the project file is available in the link in the description as well. So that's a look at kind of how the journey to getting the right notes selected, because that's really the main thing. First one, you want to get the right notes, then you want to choose the right sound. So in terms of the sound, what I did was I was looking up like kind of M1 organs, house organ kind of sounds on Splice, and ended up finding this sound, which is, I think, similar. It's actually a full loop. What I did was I just dragged this full loop. As you can see, like, it's just really triggering, if I can zoom in, it's really just triggering like the first note of the loop. And it actually is just ignoring all the rest of it. That way I'm just playing that one little bit of the first note, and then the MIDI is just changing the melody of it. Cool way to just, instead of having to do like traditional synthesis or sound design, you can just chuck stuff in like that. It's a cool little thing that I like to do quite a bit. And we're finding like a nice properly sample and then just using MIDI to change the note of it. So that's how I got the sound of it, and it's pretty similar to the main sound. It's definitely some kind of like M1 organ sound, I'd say. Then in terms of any processing, standard channel strip stuff, so removing a bunch of the lows. I have this set up to always load up on every single one of my audio and MIDI tracks. This way it's just really quick. So removing a bunch of lows to make room for the bass and the kick. Try not to get anything too muddy. Not doing any transient shaping, so we'll skip that. We're doing a little bit of sidechain, so it's just some pumping sidechain. Make room for the kick and give it a bit of that kind of groove that the sidechain can do. The way I like to do it is I have an Ableton shaper set up to go on quarter notes, which is quarter notes is what the kick's doing, and then it's just ducking some volume with the utility. This way you can just drag it in by ear, instead of having to like route compressors and dial it in and all that stuff. You can literally just bring it up the volume or the knob on this to taste and move on, which is kind of the way I like to do it, kind of mixing as you go. Then a little bit of Ableton saturation, well, quite a bit, 9 decibels of this. This is just Ableton saturator device set up here so that I can easily dial it in with one knob, and it's just adding some fullness and a little bit of like kind of, not quite distortion, but definitely some kind of like grit and character to the sound, pushing it up quite a bit. Then I did play with a shifter, but I didn't use it. And then I'm just running into K-clip here, kind of clipping it a little bit. I think I just used this to bring up the volume. The sound was just kind of quiet, so that's how I just use that to bring up the volume. The main thing here, again, is all this processing is nice. It's doing some subtle moves, but really the main thing, the biggest bang for your buck, is going to be flicking back and forth and trying to listen to that ARP and trying to get the right volumes. The volumes is going to get you that 80% of the way there, kind of thing. Next up, we have this next element, so let's take a look and listen to that. Solo it for a second for you too. So I believe, if we have a look here, the MIDI we were just looking at is hovering around like G2, and this one is hovering around C3. So basically it's the same MIDI, it's just been pushed up an octave. And what's going on here is it has found a different sample on Splice. It's some kind of like organ sound again, or almost it's kind of an organ sound, but higher up it kind of has a cool like Asian vibe to me, I guess. But I think it's cool. And I basically just found a similar sound and then an octave higher to layer above the main sound. I kind of can maybe hear that in the original, but either way, I liked how it turned out in this version. So again, once the notes are set up and the sound is set up, similar to the reference track, then we just do a little bit of processing. But the main thing again is the volume, so just kind of blend the two together. In terms of the processing, we're just removing a bit more of the lows because we want like the low of that original ARP to be taken up a bit more of that, and try not to get any overlapping frequencies as much, which can create mud and crappiness, and yeah, not what you want. Then I'm running into this transient designer or shaper, which is this free kilohertz transient shaper device, and basically what we're using it is to shape the transients of each of the notes. So we're bringing down the attack, which kind of softens the sound a little bit, which I was trying to go for to soften it up so that it's blending in with that first ARP that we built up. Then some one knob sidechain, a little bit more of it, so it's pumping a bit more. A bit of saturation to fill out the device a bit, or fill out the sound a little bit more. And I'm using this one knob width plugin, another free one from Polyverse called Wider. And again, just map the main knobs to a rack so that quick moves don't have to keep opening up VSTs and use their weird interface and get like you know, confuzzled by anything like that. You can just do quick one knob moves. In this case, I'm just using the mono feature that it has to make that sound a bit more mono. And I should mention all these racks and everything is available in the project files if you'd like to grab that. And then running into K-clip again to bring up some volume on that. Then the next thing that I added in once like kind of that main ARP was created was some vocals. So I'm pretty happy with how these vocals sounded. So I'm going to play a bit of this into it, and then we'll just listen to a little bit of the vocals that we got here. So let's flick to the original. I think we bring up our volume a bit. Flip back again. So the vocals are main thing that I was trying to show you there was trying to get the volumes to the same level. So in terms of sourcing the vocals, I was looking for some kind of like some cool kind of like R&B kind of sound, similar to like the vibe of I think it's Whitney Houston that was doing the original "It's Not Right, It's Okay" tune there. So I found kind of something similar, female singer, R&B style. Ended up with Jennifer Lopez, "If You Had My Love." What I did is I chucked the full song into a website called lalal.ai, which I used to separate the vocals from the instrumentals, and that's how I was able to get like a clean vocal. Then once that was in there nicely, I think I did have to change the pitch. So I usually go to a website called all you have to actually really do is type in the name of the song, Jennifer Lopez, "If You Had My Love," and then key BPM, and it'll tell you what the key is. And then basically I was able to see that I needed to pitch this song up 1 semitone for it to match the instrumental that I've been building up in the previous steps here. So pitched it up a little bit, set it to Complex Pro so I can adjust the formants and envelopes just a little bit. It was mostly just to ear and to taste. And then in terms of any processing, I'm not using this Nectar device. Just a little bit of EQ to get rid of some of the low end, a little bit of sidechain to pump it up a bit, or pump it and make room for the kick, a little bit of saturation to filter the sound a little bit, and this time we're using a touch of this width plugin to make the sound a bit more stereo, pop out a bit, and a little bit of K-clip to bring up the volume of the track. And then there's a certain point where there's this cool little A1 trigger gate thing in the second end, like kind of the end of the tune. I'll show you that in the arrangement video, but that's pretty much it. Not too much processing going on. I'm doing a little bit of sends and returns here, so a little reverb being added on this send here, and then a little bit of shorter delay and a little bit of longer delay here, which is adding kind of like atmosphere. Boom. And then the last two tracks here that we're going to go over is then this starts getting introduced. So let's have a look and listen right here. I'm going to keep turning off the vocals just so that it doesn't interfere with the voiceover here. Turn it up a bunch. So if we listen to the original track, you can listen to that higher arc. That's kind of what I was trying to recreate. So here's a look at the MIDI. I think what I did is I just dropped it in. It was just playing with the same MIDI that we had before over here, and just kind of removed a bunch of notes so that they could be more of like kind of a call and response. So basically reusing the old MIDI clips that we had before. We're hitting kind of similar notes, just at a higher octave, I believe. Then in terms of the sound, I was going for some kind of like Asian vibe for sure. So I looked up kind of like kotos and Asian kind of instruments and tried to find stuff with a C note so that it would play the MIDI. And I found this cool little koto bending kind of thing. In terms of any processing, removing some of the low end, a bit of sidechain. That's pretty much it. And I panned this one a bit to the right, and then I have another one that we're going to pan to the left. So let me introduce the second element here. Solo it for a second, and then put the two together. So what you might be able to tell is I actually made this MIDI first, and then as you can see here, I ghosted out some of the notes and made it so the other track is playing that. So that way there's like this kind of like, if you look at the MIDI here, like this one plays, and this one plays, and this one plays, and this one plays. So there's like a call and a response happening here. And there's a bit of a left and a right thing going on. So it's almost like there's a conversation happening, which is really cool. Have to look at the notes. Can't really explain too much music theory, but I'll move on. Then I did find another similar kind of koto, kind of like Asian kind of sound. The other one has more of a bend to it, and this one's more just flat. And so it's just like a slightly different sound, but it's in the same kind of style. Then in any processing here, we're just getting rid of a bunch of the low end as usual, a little bit of sidechain to pump it and make room for the kick, and then some saturation to fill stuff out. That's a pretty good look at that. And then there is this last little bit. It's kind of more of an arrangement bit, but there's one part in like the breakdown where there's this piano. So let's have a listen to that. Turn it up a bunch for you. And basically, I just found like in the right key, C minor. I looked up like just stuff on Splice for some one shots. I really don't like creating chords and using MIDI. I actually kind of just hate using MIDI. So my preference is usually to find samples. So just found a good sample. I think I found a slightly different version of that sample to kind of play a slightly different chord and then pitch it down 7/70 tones to make it so it sounds like a chord progression's playing. Kind of my style of doing things. I'm not a big fan of MIDI. I like sampling and chopping and cutting and finding unique ways to get around sound design. So that's kind of a big thing that I like to do. With that said, I want to also, before we jump into the 80/20 rule here, I should also take a moment to mention that this video is also sponsored by our good friends over at Rocket Powered Sound. In this tune, if we have a look at the drums, the kick, and some of the claps and snares, I believe, were from one of their sample packs called the Ultimate Sample Pack, which is a pretty badass sample pack. It has like over 1,000 different samples and sounds in it. A lot of like iconic stuff that you can use in a lot of tracks. And so I grabbed a lot from there. And as a special offer, you can get 30% off of that Ultimate Sample Pack. There's a link on screen now as well as in the description. Just make sure you use the code ULTIMATEBESTFRIENDS to get access to that and get that 30% off. With that said, again, thank you a bunch to Rocket Powered Sound for hooking our community up here. And with that said, let's jump into the 80/20 rule with this one. Hi, my friend. Matt from Best Friends Club here. And if you've been paying attention, then you've probably figured out what the 80/20 rule is when it comes to creating melodic elements like synths and vocals for your music. The goal here is to get 80% of the result with only 20% of the time, energy, or effort. And because the first key to the 80/20 rule when building out your melodic elements is to use a reference track, we are making sure that we're effortlessly hitting 80% of a very professional benchmark. In particular, we use that reference track to focus on playing in the right key, following a similar rhythm, and selecting the right sounds. This just keeps things fast and focused. The second key is to mix as you go in an extremely streamlined way by only focusing on the volume of our sounds compared to the reference track, as well as using a simple repeatable channel strip for each track that we add to our songs. The third and final key is that you don't want to reinvent the wheel each and every time, so you should start a practice of repurposing your old project files by adding old project files, racks, and groups to your collections area in Ableton. By creating a suite of powerful templates, Ableton racks, and one-knob effects that you've personalized and curated over time, you'll be able to get a higher quality result faster. If you'd like to get a head start by downloading all the racks, templates, and all the files that you've seen me use in the Ableton project file for this video, or if you'd just like to take a closer look at any of the techniques or tracks you saw me work on in this video at your own pace, you can find a link to this video's project files on screen now and at the second link that's in the YouTube description. I'm recreating a different song from the Beatport top charts every single week and making the project files available to anyone who wants them. You'll also get access to a private Discord where you can ask me and the community questions, as well as share tracks for feedback. If you or your music are not quite ready for a shot in the arm like that, I've also made you a completely free bundle of templates, samples, and special bonuses that have helped me figure out how to completely finish one new song each and every single week. And you can grab that free Ultimate Song Finishing Toolkit by visiting the first link that's in the YouTube description here. However, if you just feel like staying on YouTube for now, that's totally fine. Save that link for later and check out this playlist of videos where I remake other melodic elements like synths and vocals from other songs in the Beatport top charts. Or if you want to take what you've learned in this video to the next level, check out this video right here.